The Imperial ultimatum arrived without ceremony, no fanfare, no diplomatic channels, no warning. Just a single holographic transmission forcing itself into every Terran command station, every orbital defense grid, every bunker carved beneath the ash fields of old continents. The image flickered once, stabilized, and revealed High Legate Corvith of the Dominion Empire. His posture was stiff, his armor polished to a mirror sheen, and his voice carried the same arrogance that had echoed through conquered worlds for 6 centuries. "Humans of soul," he declared, every syllable sharpened by condescension. "You will submit all autonomous military authority to Imperial oversight within 12 cycles. Failure to comply will be interpreted as open rebellion. And rebellion will be extinguished." The message ended abruptly, leaving only silence. But in the Terran defense nexus, buried beneath the ridges of the Tibetan Highline, command strategist Mara Lennox didn't flinch. The room remained dim, lit only by the blue glow of layered holoscreens. Her staff exchanged uneasy glances, waiting for her reaction, deciphering the tension in her jaw. She finally exhaled. So they sent their demand. General Rourke, a broad-shouldered veteran with a jagged scar cutting across his cheek, stepped forward. "It's not a demand. It's a threat, and a sloppy one." Mara turned her gaze toward the larger hollow wall displaying fleet movements across the Orion Spur. Imperial formations were tightening. Patrol routes were doubling. Transport lanes were shifting in unnatural patterns. "They're scared," she said. "They're mobilizing," Rourke replied. Mara shook her head. "They're scared. Mobilization is only the symptom." Around them, the Nexus hummed with encrypted chatter. Officers reported on Imperial deployments, anomalies in border regions, and intercepted broadcasts from subjugated worlds. But Mara focused only on the patterns, the hidden story behind the noise. "For centuries," she said calmly, "the Empire treated us like a conquered ember. Something they stamped out long ago. Something that never rises. And now they think we might," Rourke murmured. Mara's eyes hardened. "They suspect it. But they don't believe it. Not yet." A young signals officer turned from her console. "Ma'am, I have multiple confirmations. The Empire has deployed Dominion-class battleships into the Helion corridor. That's a restricted lane. Restricted for them," Rourke muttered. Mara stepped forward, hands behind her back. "Show me the scanning signatures." A holoscreen rose, displaying the unmistakable silhouettes, triangular keels, ion sheaths, phased armor plating thicker than bunkers. Dominion-class ships represented overkill. They were brought to destroy resistance cells, not negotiate. Mara's voice dropped into a razor-edged calm. "So the Empire sends warships, before we even answer." The staff waited. Every eye on her. She tapped her wrist console once. "Activate Red Protocol 0. Gasps echoed in the chamber. Rourke stiffened. "You're invoking 0? Mara, that's preemptive defense," she said. "Not aggression. 0 wasn't an attack directive. It was a contingency plan drawn up in the darkest years of the Terran exile, back when humanity scattered across hidden worlds after Sol's sterilization assault. 0 meant every shadow network, every silent fleet, every long-buried project came online. Not for war. For survival. The Nexus lights deepened to combat crimson. A soft chime followed. "Red Protocol 0 acknowledged. Systems awakening." Mara didn't smile. She didn't speak triumph. This wasn't a celebration. It was the reinforcement of an old promise, one etched into the bones of every living Terran soul. Never again. The room shifted as heavy vault doors opened along the chamber walls. Engineers rushed toward dormant consoles. Intelligence officers accessed sealed archives. Across the Soul Shadow network, old encryption keys flickered with life for the first time in 2 generations. Rourke stood beside her. "If the Empire detects activation, they already know we're not kneeling." Mara faced him fully. "What they don't know is that we stopped kneeling a long time ago." He nodded slowly. "Then what's the plan?" "We answer them," Mara said, turning toward the main broadcast dais. Not with submission. Not with negotiation. She stepped onto the platform, and the sensors activated around her, reading her posture, heartbeat, and vocal pattern. The galaxy-wide relay warmed. A vast transmission arc aligned itself toward every Imperial channel within reach. Officers looked at each other nervously. Rourke inhaled. What exactly are we sending them? Mara's voice was steady. A warning. The dais flared to life. A translucent interface wrapped around her. She waited for the final tone confirming the link was open. Transmission ready. An operator called out. Begin, Mara said. The hologram captured her silhouette, unarmored, unadorned, no symbols, no banners behind her. Just one Terran standing in front of an empire larger than the next 10 species combined. This is strategist Mara Lennox of the Terran Defense Nexus. The words rang clear. You asked for surrender? You asked for obedience. You asked for humanity to kneel. A pause. Controlled. Measured. Request denied. The staff stiffened. Officers exchanged glances. Mara continued, her voice cooling with precision. To the Dominion Empire, reconsider your deployment. Rethink your assumption. Reevaluate the threat you believe you understand. She leaned forward slightly, letting silence fill the channels for a heartbeat. Because if you proceed, you will not face a rebellion. Another pause. You will face consequences. Rourke's eyes widened, not because of the words themselves, but because of the weight behind them. Words she would not speak unless the hidden preparations were already in motion. Mara ended the message with a final line, delivered slowly and coldly. Run for your lives. The transmission cut. For a moment, nothing in the Nexus moved. Then, across the Hellion corridor, Imperial dreadnoughts registered a brief subspace shiver. Near the frozen moons of Arca, dormant beacons flickered. In the dust rings of Earth's lost orbit, something ancient stirred. And in deep space, where Terran signatures had been absent for centuries, entire constellations of cloaked vessels shifted into new formation. Humanity had spoken. And the Empire had no idea what was coming. The Dominion Empire's frontier sectors reeled within hours of the broadcast. The message spread faster than any official containment attempt, bouncing from patrol stations to merchant relays, then into private channels the Empire had stopped regulating decades ago. Humans speaking directly to the galaxy again, that alone disrupted equilibrium. But the phrasing? The tone? The warning? Run for your lives. It was unlike anything the Empire expected from a species they had categorized as extinct through pacification. In the Imperial Corps, High Legate Corvith watched the recorded holo with clenched teeth. His advisors stood in rigid lines, silent. When the message repeated, when Mara's cold voice issued that final threat, he finally spoke. Have they lost their minds? They would provoke us with this? No one dared answer. Corvith paced in front of the tactical table, armor resonating with each heavy step. We sterilized their homeworld. We shattered their colonies. We erased every trace of resistance. And now they speak as though they still possess strength. His adjutant, the ever-measured analyst Vorin, cleared her throat carefully. High Legate, our intelligence networks are flagging activity in the border sectors. Unidentified signatures. Mass disturbances across 6 trade routes. Corvith turned sharply. Define disturbances. Static interference. Relay blackouts. Entire traffic lanes going dark. No debris field. No distress calls. She hesitated. Just absence. Corvith's expression flickered. Absence was always worse than destruction. Before he could respond, a secondary alarm pulsed. A hologram expanded over the table, a projection from Fleet Command Station Ravlon. The officer on screen trembled as he saluted. High Legate, we've lost contact with Outpost Lindis. All personnel unresponsive. Automated defenses went offline simultaneously. Cause? Corvith demanded. We don't know, sir. There were no impact signatures. No invasion markers. It was just gone. The hologram blinked out. Corvus exhaled slowly. Deploy a Dominion escort wing. I want the surrounding sectors scanned. The advisors scrambled. Corvus wasn't done. And bring me the historian. Vorin blinked. Sir, historian? Yes, he snapped. The one with expertise in Terran exile patterns. If humanity is attempting a psychological maneuver, I want every documented behavior analyzed. He paused, lowering his voice. I want to know what makes them believe they can threaten us. While the Empire scrambled to understand the shift, the Terran defense nexus moved with precision. Mara Lennox strode through the subterranean corridor leading to the oversight chamber. The walls vibrated faintly with the awakening hum of systems dormant for decades. She passed armored vault doors etched with old warnings: Project Parallax, Station K-12, Silent Array, each representing a piece of Terran history hidden behind coded myths. At the chamber entrance, 2 guardians saluted her. Mara stepped through. Inside, a circular table displayed the galaxy in sweeping holographic detail. 7 figures waited, leaders of the independent Terran enclaves scattered across forgotten regions. Commander Dari Solon of the Vesper Fringe nodded once. Your message to the Empire stirred every hive between the Hellion Corridor and the Silver Drift. They're scared. We need them scared, Mara said. Fear forces mistakes. Captain Reese Calder leaned in. But your warning, you didn't pull any punches. I couldn't afford to, Mara replied. We have 12 cycles until their deadline. Realistically? We have 3 before they escalate. Another Enclave leader, Senator Kiera Mavic, tapped the holomap. We intercepted movements in the Nalthus sector. The Empire pulled an entire regiment from garrison duty. That's not normal. No, Mara agreed. It's not. Which means we're triggering the response we need. Dari raised a brow. Need? I'd say we're provoking an invasion. Exactly. Mara's tone was firm but not reckless. An invasion forces them to spread thin. They'll try to hit multiple Terran signatures. But we're not giving them predictable targets. That uncertainty is our leverage. Kiera studied her. You're planning something. I'm planning a demonstration, Mara said, activating a new display. A holographic formation appeared, elegant, angular vessels wrapped in refractive fields, each marked with Terran insignias long erased from official histories. Reese inhaled audibly. You're unleashing the phantoms? Phase 1 requires disorientation, Mara said. The phantom wings provide that. No direct engagements. No civilian harm. Only disruption. Kiera frowned. The Empire will interpret this as aggression. They already have, Mara answered. Better we define the battlefield before they try to. The chamber fell silent. Then Dari spoke. And Phase 2? Mara's gaze hardened. Phase 2 is the message behind the warning. Across the Hellion corridor, a lone Dominion cruiser patrolled the trade artery. Its captain, Arvos Delane, reviewed sensor logs with increasing frustration. All readings remained stable, yet the traffic lanes were too quiet. Travel was never this sparse. Any contact? He asked. Negative, the sensor officer replied. But sir, there's micro-interference on our long-range scans. Very faint. Almost patterned. Arvos frowned. Define patterned. The officer swallowed. It repeats every 41 seconds. Same pulse sequence. Show me. A waveform appeared. Soft. Gentle. Like a heartbeat. But not theirs. Arvos leaned closer. Can you triangulate? Trying, the officer murmured, adjusting frequencies. It's almost as if. The lights dimmed. Just for a moment. Barely a blink. But when they brightened again, something was different. Sir, the officer whispered, voice cracking. We're reading objects behind us. Arvos stiffened. What kind of objects? The bridge screens flickered, recalibrated, then snapped to new visual feeds. There, just beyond the rear hull, floated 6 black silhouettes shaped like blades. Sleek, silent, unregistered. They hadn't appeared. They hadn't warped. They hadn't decloaked. They had simply been there. The officer's voice trembled. No subspace signature. No heat trail. There, not on any Imperial registry. The shadows shifted slightly, synchronizing in formation, as if acknowledging the cruiser's awareness. Arvos felt his throat tighten. Signal identification, he ordered, though part of him already knew. The console flashed. Unidentified vessel class. Designation match, Terran Phantom Wing. Threat level unknown. Engagement protocol, stand down. Arvos stared in disbelief. Terran? Impossible. The Phantom Wing vessels didn't attack. They didn't speak. They didn't even approach. They simply hovered in absolute silence, ignoring Imperial hails, ignoring threats, ignoring warnings. Then, in perfect unison, they turned away and vanished into the void. Only one message remained on the cruiser's scrambled comms. Run. No signature. No origin. Just the word. And for the first time in his career, Captain Arvos Delane felt fear. Back on Earth's shadow networks, Mara received confirmation from the Phantom Wing's silent patrol logs. The demonstration had been executed flawlessly. No casualties. No direct strikes. Just presence. Presence was enough. Rourke approached her in the Nexus chamber. They'll react violently? They're supposed to, Mara said quietly. That's how we measure the limits. He studied her for a long moment. This is bigger than survival, isn't it? Mara didn't answer immediately. Then she looked at the galaxy map, its sectors glowing with Empire red. They wanted surrender, she whispered. We're giving them something else. Her gaze sharpened. A choice. The Dominion Empire did not wait long to respond. Within a single cycle, High Legate Corvith assembled an emergency war council inside the core citadel. The chambers swarmed with tension, fleet marshals whispering urgently, analysts exchanging reports with shaking hands, strategists attempting to impose order on chaos. Corvus slammed his palm on the table. Enough. Silence fell instantly. Tell me what we know. Vorin stepped forward. Multiple sectors have reported shadow entities matching Terran geometry. No attacks. No casualties. But every fleet that encountered them reported paralysis. Uncertainty. Several commanders initiated defensive escalation without engagement. Cowards, Corvith muttered. Sir, Vorin said carefully, the uncertainty is intentional. They're provoking fear. Corvith glared. Fear won't protect them. But he wasn't as sure as his words. He looked again at the disturbance charts. Communication disruptions, unexplained vessel losses, scanning anomalies. The Terrans had not fired a single shot, yet Imperial stability had begun to fracture. What is their objective? He demanded. Vorin hesitated. To force us into missteps. To control the battlefield before it forms. Corvitha's fist clenched. Then we return the favor. He activated the command sigil. Initiate core mandate, full Dominion mobilization. Gasps erupted. This level of mobilization had not been authorized in 2 centuries. High Legate! A marshal protested. Do it, Corvus snapped. If humans want to play at power, then we drown them in it. But even as orders rippled through the Empire, Corvith could not shake the message echoing in his mind. Run for your lives. A threat, and a promise. In the Terran Defense Nexus, Mara Lennox stood with her arms folded as new data streamed across the holomap. Imperial fleets were repositioning, stretching themselves thin across border sectors. Just as expected. Rourke approached. Phase 2 is ready. Mara took a slow breath. Initiate. The chamber dimmed. Dozens of encrypted sequences unlocked. Across the outer systems, the silent Terran infrastructure awakened. Relay jammers, subspace disruptors, phantom field generators, deep space observatories long disguised as drifting scrap. But Phase 2 didn't target ships. It targeted perception. Rourke examined the tactical display. You're going after their confidence. Mara nodded. The Empire doesn't collapse when fleets are destroyed. It collapses when its commanders stop believing they can win. She pointed toward the Nauthus verge. Deploy the echo cells? Rourke blinked. The psychological arrays? Those were experimental. They still are, Mara admitted. But they don't harm. They only reveal. A series of drones activated, carrying thousands of recorded testimonies from worlds the Empire had subjugated. Memories of families torn apart. Cities razed. Cultures erased. Voices that had been silenced for generations. Those voices now flooded Imperial civilian networks. No encryption. No bypass. Raw truth. Rourke watched the data spread like wildfire. They'll blame us. They should, Mara said. We're the ones showing them what their empire truly is. When the first testimonies appeared on Voron's screen, she froze. She had seen classified archives, she had studied war history, she had read sanitized reports, but she had never heard the voices. Never seen their fear. Never understood the scale. She whispered, "What did we do?" Corvus stormed into the room. "Shut it down!" "We can't," Voron breathed. "The broadcasts are inside the network. Block the channels." "They're not channels," she said softly. "They're memories." Corvus's face contorted. "I don't care what they are, stop them!" But even he knew it was too late. It wasn't the human threat that shook the Empire. It was the reflection. Hours later, Mara stood before the Nexus viewport, watching the shadow fleets align in silent formations. They weren't preparing for conquest. They weren't raising banners. They weren't seeking glory. They were finishing what should have been done long ago. Showing a tyrant its own shadow. Rourke joined her quietly. "Do you think they'll run?" "No," Mara whispered. "Empires don't run." She turned. "But their fear does." Far across the stars, inside the throne hall of the Dominion Corps, Corvus finally understood. The humans were not threatening annihilation. They were threatening truth. And truth was the one enemy the Empire had no weapon for.